I thought today would be a good day to do a tour of the garden because we've been getting rain for the past few days, and so I haven't needed to water, and everything is essentially at its peak right now in the time of midsummer. So let's take a look at what our garden looks like towards the middle to end of summer. So this is sort of the biggest project that I worked on this past year. This is the arch that is made of cattle panel, a 16-foot cattle panel curved in such a way that you'll be able to walk under it. And so that's about an 8-foot tall arch there. And I have these beds right here that are 12 foot long, running along the side of the panel archway. And the panels do overlap in the middle because otherwise they'd be too long for this specific design. I just wanted to start off by showing you this because it's covered in morning glory vines, but we'll come back to that. I just want to first start off in the more conventional part of the garden. So that is what I just finished fixing up here, which honestly is pretty unfortunate in terms of its design because this year the tomatoes and peppers took a back seat on my priority list. So right now we have this rigged up sort of lattice or training post for these tomatoes. The specific variety, I don't know. These were just some heirloom seeds that we enjoyed from last year. They kind of come out looking like a nice heirloom artisan tomato. I might have one on here that I can show you. There's got to be at least something, right? Yeah, so I don't know if that really looks that artisan. It's pretty small there. But I have not been pruning or taking care of these at all because I've been doing some other stuff in the garden, but I always try to do something with tomatoes. This year it has not been as good, but we'll see. Later on in the summer when it gets even warmer, these might actually start taking off. I was dealing with some blossom end rot here with these tomatoes because I am planting directly in the soil and our soil quality here is incredibly bad. So, but I thought I'd give it a try anyway. So those are the tomatoes. No specific varieties. They are just going to be a general kind of heirloom looking tomato. Now let's take a look at our peppers. The peppers are actually doing much better. I have a stronger green thumb when it comes to peppers than tomatoes, that's for sure. And so maybe they're just easier to grow. These red ones here are cayenne peppers. These were the wackiest things when I first saw them. They're these long, slender peppers, and they're pretty spicy, and I've made some really nice sauces with them already this year. I do enjoy them quite a bit. They're not as hot as something like a habanero or a ghost, but they've still got a decent amount of heat, and they are very nice and flavorful in a sauce. That's the cayenne. Let's take a look here, back. This one, closest to the building here, is actually jalapeno. This one is growing unassisted actually. This one is the best because it has a super strong base and it produces a ton of really nice fruit, peppers, and I leave them so that they turn red here, but green or red, this is always my favorite pepper plant to grow, just because it's always so sturdy, so stable, so productive, and yeah, it's always a good one to have. I tried this one since I took a look at shishito last year. This one is a shishito pepper plant. I enjoy these green. I enjoy them red as well. Either way is pretty good, although this one looks pretty cool. That is awesome. Shishito certainly get hotter if you leave them longer, but they're nothing really. If you throw them in a stir fry or another dish, they really don't add too much appreciable heat. But this has been a fun one. This one has been very productive, one of the most productive, I'd say. So if you want to have a lot of peppers, not necessarily too spicy, go with shishito. It's a highly productive plant. over here in front, truthfully, this one is the banana pepper. I don't see a ton of fruit on it. I think I recently picked them. This banana pepper hasn't been too productive, but the fruit is delicious. The peppers are good. If you throw them in some water, vinegar, salt, a little bit of sugar maybe, and you'll have this delicious sort of pickled banana pepper, sort of like what you'd have on a nice salad or associated with pizza. So banana pepper it's sort of a novelty one. That's the main use case that I find, but if you can think of any other way to use it, that would work as well. Here we have the, what is this one? It's just a lunchbox red pepper. It's just a mini bell pepper, like a snacking pepper. Actually, there's a couple on here that might be ready. Maybe that was the only one. Just a standard red bell pepper mini. And you might notice there are quite a few peppers on the ground. That's because I didn't get to them. There have been just so many falling off of the cayenne and shishito that I just kind of have left them at this point. So that's what is kind of littering the ground over there. Kind of a zoomed out view, we have this Goliath butternut squash. That's what this gourd is. And it sort of snakes its way probably over 20 feet, still going into the corn and watermelon. So this is a continuous butternut squash plant, and it just keeps on going there. That one has been growing since, honestly, early spring. I never did anything with it. It just kind of kept going. I thought it might be attacked by squash vine borer, but it seems like this butternut variety is pretty resilient and resistant. This squash here is a Long Island cheese, and I'm growing it because of its resistance to pests, such as squash vine borer. And I'm just checking here. Squash vine borer haven't been around for at least a couple months, but it took out a lot of our kind of spring and early pumpkins and gourds. Just kind of walking along right here, this is the sweet corn patch, and you'll see these are this invasive ground cherry that I tried growing a year ago, and it just has completely invaded the garden. I probably should pull up more of them, but this is kind of a random assortment here, where we have something like tomato growing next to corn, squash in between. Like I say, this is a sweet corn variety here. No fruit, no corn yet, just because I planted this one about a month ago or so. I want to say maybe a month and a half. Probably be getting some nice corn coming out soon. So that's just this little mini patch here. And then we can take a look at kind of the larger corn field, I guess, or corn patch, which is pretty much all dried out, but we do have quite a few little cobs on there, or ears of corn, and I need to pick them. They're just kind of like a mini corn and a blue corn, nothing too crazy. Oh, here's a nice little one that hasn't dried out yet, that's still growing. And then all along the ground here is watermelon. This is, I believe it's called Moon and Stars watermelon. It has this really interesting looking speckled leaf. And something really interesting I noticed, I think it's variegation, I'm not sure, on these more mature leaves here, but also on these younger leaves back here. This one is fully lacking of chlorophyll. This whole stem right here, they're all white. I don't know if that's a nutrient deficiency, but it seems as though they have some sort of recessive chlorophyll reduction going on, some sort of irrigation, I'm not sure. I thought it looked pretty cool. It's the same kind of watermelon though, the Moon and Stars. I think that's what it's called, something like that. This here is that squash. So that goes all the way down there, still this way. It only produced one butternut, and that was it, but it produced a huge vine here. And still among the corn here. There's quite a bit of it. So I planted it first over there, and then over here. So that's why this is green and that's not, because that one has already dried out. And then this over here has not produced any ears of corn yet. In terms of watermelon, we have a ton of vines all over the ground. Are there any watermelon fruits? Well, there was this one that didn't survive. I think something to do with the rain. It basically split, and I think it just took on too much water. Something happened like that. I'm not too much of knowledge on what would cause a melon to split like that, but it basically burst open. And but it doesn't seem like it was a watermelon. It seems like it was some type of honeydew or something, which is possible because I was throwing quite a few different seeds in this area, seeing what would grow, but mainly these watermelon took. And here's a little watermelon. This one has some scarring, but it did not split like that one, and that's not even the same kind. This one was more cream colored or white, and you can kind of see that on the inside as well. If you kind of just take a look, you'll probably find something. It's kind of like hunting for Easter eggs in a way, because there have to be watermelon, right? There's just so many vines. And you know, I was digging around like this. I hadn't really seen any watermelon. I was digging around, I was doing some weeding, trying to clean things up, because I thought there have to be watermelon. And like, oh, here's one there. And there has to be one over here too, right? Well, I came over here, and this is starting to turn into squash territory. Again, this is zucchini actually, I believe. I think everything has been jumbled up this year. Next year, I will make sure to keep, at least I'm going to tell myself, I'm going to try to keep things more organized. This year was kind of just dedicating space and making sure that I could actually grow some things that I wanted to. And I think it's worked out pretty well. I think I just kind of need to get things better situated. But anyway, I was weeding and then I found this, I want to say a week ago or a week and a half ago, and I was not expecting to find this. It was, of course, maybe 2/3 this size. It's been growing pretty fast, especially after this rain, and I was honestly worried it might split or get damaged in some way. This is a huge watermelon, and I don't think it's a Moon and Stars because this doesn't have that speckling. But take a look. This is a really nice melon, and even if none of those other melons out there produce a single one, so long as I get this one, I'll be happy. And that sounds like a nice melon in there. So we'll take a look and see how that comes out. Hopefully it makes it. Here, I don't think I've kind of seen, I believe this is a zucchini. I've kind of seen, as you'll see down there, there are kind of some fruits or something going on, but more than anything, this has just been leaves. No real fruit to speak of, unless there's one hiding, you know, as was the case for this giant melon here. Maybe there's a zucchini hiding in there. All right, let's take a step into this patch. So from this side, we of course have more corn, more watermelon. But on this side, I also planted some peppers, a couple peppers here. So this is actually a Tabasco pepper. And The only one on this plant, it's stayed a really small plant. I don't really fertilize over here as much as I should. This one here is actually turning a different shade, almost an orangey color. But I think it's so fascinating that all the peppers on this plant grow straight up. They don't hang down at all. They're sort of like little Christmas lights or something. So I thought that was fun. And then growing next to it is this sort of small, unassuming plant, which is actually probably the craziest pepper that we have, because this has the Carolina Reapers on it, and they've really only started ripening in the past week or so. So this one looks good to pick. Right here. Maybe the tail needs just another day or so, but these are those Carolina Reapers. Small little plant. It has quite a few more flowers actually, but I just have two reasonably different in spiciness plants growing right here, Carolina Reaper and Tabasco. And then just because I have no other plant growing for this specific vegetable or fruit, I guess, would be eggplant. So this is an eggplant, and it looks like there's already, well, technically I already got at least one eggplant off of this, or two I want to say. And so there's another one growing right there. So that is the eggplant. Eggplant, Tabasco, Carolina Reaper. I will show you the ghost peppers that I have growing as well. I planted some ornamental this year, more than last year. I have this sunflower here. They're doing okay. These ones are more recent. I actually had a couple more. Let's see if we can find them. Over here, these ones had already flowered. I don't know if they have seeds. Oh wow, they actually might. Let's take a look. Yeah, look at that. Little mini sunflower seeds. So that's pretty cool. This is my first time really trying to grow sunflowers. So I just thought it'd be fun to throw a few seeds, and we'll do that. See if they grow again next year. Down here, beneath the sunflowers, I'm also growing this flower, which is yarrow, or yarrow, depending on how you say it. It's totally lost in the weeds right now. This is a very low-lying plant, and I feel sort of bad for it. It's getting suffocated out, but this is yarrow down there. And it's getting suffocated out by this new Hanover, I believe, or maybe just Hanover, I don't remember what it's called. This ground cherry. This is in my opinion, an incredibly invasive solanum, this ground cherry here. I did not plant this. These are all volunteers from last year, where I had some ground cherry growing at the edge of the bed right here. And all of these, because they have these little lantern-like fruit, and they just will disperse everywhere. And every single little yellow dot you see is a flower that will become another one of those lantern fruits. So are they good to eat? They can be. You can buy these at Sprouts, and they are kind of seen as an upscale fruit, but I've just never gotten them to the same ripeness that I have when I bought them from the actual grocery store. So if I can do that, I think I'd enjoy them, but picking them is a little bit of a pain, just because they tend to fall to the ground. Even after they fall, they're not ripe, and I think it's probably because they're in that husk, and the husk stops the sunlight and also the leaves. It's all kind of a canopy, And so they never really ripen as much as I'd like, because once they're this vibrant orange yellow, they actually are pretty sweet. Up until then, it's kind of like eating a semi-sweet tomato, and it's not really enjoyable, which is often the case for these kind of things in the Solanum family. So I'm gonna work on this. Let me see if I can somehow figure out a way to make these more palatable. I believe as a jam as well, but the flavor just isn't as great as it could be. So these are the invasive ground cherries, if you're wondering, and I've made a pretty good effort to pick them out of every other bed, but you'll still see them coming up. If I can just concentrate them to this one area, I think I'll be happy. And notable mention, but not doing so hot in terms of appearance, although I'm confident that these will come back in next year, are these pawpaws that I'm growing here. They look terrible, and it's because they're in the sun. These are 4 years old, and at this point they should be able to be transplanted into a sunny spot. They are surviving. That's one. Here's the second one. I think they'll make it. They have all their leaves. They don't have all their leaves. They're holding on to the leaves they have. How about that? And this is a pretty sunny spot, but I want them to put on some good fruit in the coming years, and that's kind of what they need, that sun. So I think they'll do well, those pawpaws, but let's keep moving and take a look at the back garden, because this is sort of the front garden where we have all these squash and corn and tomato and watermelon. So on the way to the back here, we can take a look at our succulents. And really, these are just the San Pedro cactus. These have at least doubled in terms of the amount of plant material that I have here from last year. I just started with, 3 plants? And so I've been just grafting them, and as you can see, or not grafting them, I've just been propagating them. And as you can kind of see, they've just exploded. This one is doing super well. It has 3 pups coming up, but all of them that have had pieces cut off are putting on pups. So that's really nice to see. These ones here, this one has 2. This is probably one of the slowest growing San Pedros I have, and it has one decent one that's almost as big as the remaining part of the cutting. So that is always fun to see. These are slow growing, but thought I might as well start now in order to get some super tall cactuses maybe one day. All right, now let's take a look. We're back at the arch where we'll go in and see everything that's growing and going on. Here we have a squash. It's supposed to be I think it's called a tromboncino, something like that. It's some kind of Italian squash that's supposed to be resistant to squash vine borer. That's the only reason I'm growing it, because I don't want to have to worry about squash vine borer anymore this year or next year. So that's tromboncino, I believe it's called, or something, some kind of zucchini-esque machada. It's not a cucurbita pepo. It's one of those resistant varieties. Okay, and I just remembered, because we're going to take a look at this one down here. Growing right next to this is soybean. So these are some soybean. This is a soybean vine that's growing here. It has flowers. It doesn't have actual bean pods growing it, but let's take a look, because just earlier today I did see that back over here I tried to plant the beans along with the corn to see how that would go. It went okay. Nothing is necessarily at odds with each other. It's just that it's really just that the squash grew way too fast and took over everything. But in this space here, where there is no squash and there is no corn, we have, yes, we have soybeans growing. And you can see that there are the pods. And it's awesome. It's just, oh, I don't even know, it's not even a foot tall, you know, but it's growing those pods there. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm gonna keep an eye on this. It's getting a lot of good sun right here because, like I say, there are no plants to choke it out. It's found its niche right there, and everything else can grow alongside it. All right, back to the back. So we took a look at that one, that soybean with the fruit or the pod, and this is the one here that just has the flowers. But I was trying to encourage it to grow along the trellis or the arch here. I think that would be cool, but the arch right now is just overcome with morning glory, and half the morning glory is sweet potato, actual edible sweet potato, and the other half is just a decorative morning glory. But either way, one of my favorite things about growing morning glory are the heart-shaped leaves. I just think that's so nice. And especially with these more decorative varieties, they come out like this. And no, something about seeing hearts on the arch looks so cool to me. Well, anyway, besides morning glory, we also have datura, or some call it moonflower, but this is datura, so that there's no confusion. These moonflowers actually bloomed yesterday. Looks like there's a lot of ants here working on pollination, maybe, for the moonflower. This is a really beautiful one to grow. And last night we kind of saw that the moonflower was coming to the point where it would be the night, and here's a little one right here, tiny little flower. But last night, oh, here's a flower that fell off. Last night we saw the flowers, they were just ready to bloom. Sure enough, we came out around 10 p.m. and then we were able to see these two bloom and take pictures. It was such a fun experience, and I definitely recommend growing moonflower if you can. It's always a fun one. It's a very important plant. We actually got it from a neighbor who was growing it as well. It's super fun. Datura, and then I have hollyhock growing next to the datura. It hasn't necessarily shown any signs of flowering. It's from seed, but that's what this is. I always think it kind of looks like a squash almost, you know? This is hollyhock. Something like that, but we'll see how it goes. I think it probably needs to be transplanted or something like that. I do enjoy the flowers, that's why. See, I'm trying to do more things that aren't just food-based plants, but actually visual enjoyment and good for pollinators. So that's my focus, just to kind of have a more holistic garden this year. I'm shifting towards that. I think next year will be even better. Where all those invasive ground cherries are was my plan to make a pollinator highway garden for butterflies and migratory pollinators. I'll show you kind of my plan for that as well in a moment, though. Here we have lemongrass, really important in Thai and Vietnamese and Southeast Asian cuisine. This is an absolute favorite and super easy to grow. It's just not very cold tolerant, but a greenhouse or something like that will certainly help. Here, this one is the first for me growing this year. An unassuming grass, certainly, but actually incredibly prolific from just what I've seen from it growing in this pot. This is sweetgrass. I don't remember the scientific name, but it is the sweetgrass that has the indigenous use. This is a very important plant, and I just wanted to have this one in the garden because it's just an incredible smelling plant. You just have to plant this, even in just a pot, because the smell is Even just now, just me touching the plant here, I smell it. It's such a beautiful and important plant. I recommend, if you can, grow sweetgrass, even just in a pot. It can become a little bit invasive. It likes marshy areas, and it's doing well here. This is that sweetgrass. Also a very important plant. This one back here, you may recognize. This plant, or these two plants here, and then I also have another one over there. These are tobacco. So these are a very, very important plant. And they also have incredibly beautiful flowers. So that's why I'm growing them, because of the flowers and then just their significance in history and, of course, in this country, on this continent. This is the tobacco. Beautiful, giant, magnificent leaves of a plant. And I don't see any flowers, but flowers are very lovely as well. I'm just crawling through the bed here. We'll take a look at what else we have. So, also along the vine, not just morning glory. This is a very sad ground cherry here. But we also have this one, which is passion flower. Passion flower, it should be Passiflora incarnata, I believe. Although it could also be passion fruit, because we had both. We saved the seeds after eating passion fruit, and so I honestly could be either one or both, you know. Either way, certainly a passion flower vine of some kind. And this one is really important. It is the host plant for Gulf fritillaries. Last year, actually, in fact, we had one measly little passion flower vine. It never even fruited, it never even flowered. And we were visited by at least a dozen Gulf fritillary butterflies. And there should be one on this side too. I'm trying so hard to grow these plants for the Gulf fritillary, because a whole gang of Gulf fritillaries descended on the garden and landed on just one plant, probably around this size, and laid their eggs, and they just completely overwhelmed the plant. There wasn't enough plant material for their caterpillars to eat. I felt so bad watching them. They eventually just resorted to eating the stick of the stem of the vine, but hopefully this year. I am sure they know where we are, and they will be back, and I've prepared for them the best I can. The passion flower vine doesn't really seem to be growing very quickly, but it has been growing. You'll see. It's been growing up this trellis here, up the arch. So hopefully they'll be happy with this. I can't do any more to accommodate their voracious appetites, those Gulf fritillaries. This is the sort of canopy part of our garden here. This bed was designated for garlic, and you'll see there are some garlic trying to survive interspersed throughout here. But overall, this has been not that great of a bed for much else other than just little scraps, you know. I think it's just due to a lack of light. Like I say, this is shaded, but I'm trying to figure out how to use this space. And I'll have to figure out what plants are more accommodating to the shade here. Here are our trees. This is quite a large amount of trees here of different varieties. So just to kind of quickly run through them, these three here in front are moringa. I'm trying to propagate them from a cutting with rooting hormone in coconut coir. It doesn't seem to be working very well, but worth a try. I just got a bag of them from an Asian grocery store, the moringa cuttings. These ones are soursop, I want to say. no, Chirimoya. I can't remember if that's the same thing as soursop. I don't think so. Yeah, this is Chirimoya here. Chirimoya as well. And this one here, the new growth is getting eaten by slugs. This is mango. This is a double mango here. Very, very cool plant. I've got to do something about those slugs there. Here, this big one is sapote. This is a very fun one to grow. I've had this plant for at least 3 years now. It has kind of like an umbrella look to it. I love the sapote. It's a delicious fruit. In here, we have lychee. These are lychee saplings. They have a very interesting leaf structure for their embryonic leaves. It's just fascinating. Just from some fruit that we ate and then saved the seeds. All these are that, by the way. I don't actually go out and buy these saplings or search for these. I just enjoy the fruit, so then I just save the seeds for mango and Chirimoya sapote. And speaking of sapote, here's a baby sapote here. It's just growing in the shadow of this larger one, and that's just from the last sapote that I ate. Okay, so basically a lot of tropical fruit trees. We're not quite done yet though. So on this side is the pawpaw patch, if you call it that. They're all in pots, but you saw those couple of pawpaws earlier that I planted well. This is the operation where they came from. I just have pawpaws of varying ages. So this one here, I want to say is around 2.5 or 3 years old. This is the same age here. This is NC1. This is actually the only pawpaw that I have of a specific cultivar, NC1. But this one is wild type. I grew it from seed. So everything here, all these little ones are from seed, and I've labeled which fruit they came from to see if they'll have that association with their fruit once they produce it. And then I have a larger pawpaw back here. This is one of my favorite pawpaws. It's so prolific in its foliage. I can't wait to plant this one. This is my, I don't know, if I needed to invade the world with pawpaws in a couple of years, pawpaw, I would use this one because it just grows crazy. But yeah, these are my pawpaws here. This is just Chirimoya. It's the leaf is different. It's more round. But it does look very similar to pawpaw. You'll see. Pawpaw kind of more pointed, but you can kind of get that out of a Chirimoya. All right. Now we'll take a look at the other side of the garden here. All right, so this is kind of the final spot. This is where I have most of the saplings and the germinating plants. So all these here are ghost peppers, with the exception of a few, one being this eggplant here, this eggplant. The rest of them are ghost pepper. All of these are ghost pepper. Now, in the far back here, we actually do have Thai basil. This is Thai basil that I have propagated hydroponically from cuttings from a Vietnamese restaurant or Thai restaurant, where you would receive Thai basil alongside a soup. And so I just reserve the Thai basil and bring it home and put it in water, and you end up with these. And I've actually given these out to family and friends who've been interested in having their own Thai basil plant, because it is usually difficult to find unless you go to an international market or something like that. So that is what I'm working on here. The last bed that we'll really look at is my mint bed, or predominantly mint bed. You'll notice right off the bat, Italian basil. Always nice to have in the garden. This one has been doing very well. Very little care is needed. No pests have bothered it at all. Thai basil, sorry, not Thai basil, Italian basil, or, you know, whatever. It comes by a lot of different names, but you would use this in Italian cooking. Here we have, what is this one? Wild Magic. I only know because of that. This Wild Magic basil is very similar to Thai basil, although it has a very slightly more, I don't know, it's very similar, but it has almost like a more earthy smell to it or something, I'd say. This is that Wild Magic. I've never really used it before. I don't know how to use it, but it is just a different type of basil. Here I actually have some Thai basil, so let me compare the smell. Yeah, I don't know. Very similar. Maybe this one's a bit more spicy, but yeah, probably interchangeable in a Thai dish, you wouldn't know. This one, though, is just that Thai basil that I mentioned that I get from restaurants and then just propagate in water. This one, honestly, the leaf size is so much more similar to this Italian basil, because it just looks, I think the leaves got jacked when they were in the hydroponic, system. They got so many nutrients from that. This is a difficult garden, though, this mint garden, because it is in the shade, and so they do get very leggy, but they survive. I'm just kind of working with what we have. This is Clipdaga. This is the only Clipdaga that survived from last year. Clipdaga is always one of my favorites to grow for mint. It's the one with the interesting orange flowers. It's also known as lion's ear, I believe. Lion's ear? I think that's right. And behind it we have a really, really nice one. This is lemon balm. This one is so much fun to grow. It has such a beautiful smell. I always recommend growing lemon balm. It is super prolific and just has the most relaxing scent out of any plant. And I really should harvest some and make some tea. Along with the lemon balm, we're kind of getting more into the mint territory. I don't really know. There's all sorts of mints growing around here. Some of them are spearmint, some of them are sweet mint. A whole mixture. I think this one right here is spearmint, but further back, oh yeah, you can kind of tell. The sweet mint is smaller in stature. The leaves look a little bit different. Still a really, really nice mint there. It's mint, so I don't think it's really gonna die or anything. They're just kind of suffering in the shade, but that's all right. They'll control their spread, I guess. Over here is catnip. It has this catnip. It looks so manky, but it has been alive for look at the stems. This catnip has been around for at least a year and a half now. It just won't die. I transplanted it, survived the winter. If you remember, I made a video from the snow update, and I uncovered that catnip. It was still with us. So we're kind of just waiting for that catnip to kick the bucket, but really cool plant. I will plant more of it. There's actually a little one growing right here. So once this big one finishes its life cycle, this one can take off, and because that's the catnip that grew from one of its seeds, because it already has seeded and flowered and seeded and flowered. I don't know what's going on with it. Anyway, mint bed, although we do have some stinging nettle over here, Urtica dioica. That's this one. It kind of looks like a mint almost, maybe some kind of, is it a mint? I don't think it is. Could be. I'm not sure, but it is stinging nettle. Let's see if we can look at the hairs on the plant. Let's see. Oh man. Maybe if I go like that. Okay. Yeah, you can kind of see him. Stinging nettle. That's always a fun one to grow. And we also have here in the back marshmallow, although it's been kind of eaten by slugs, I'm guessing. And this is a fun one to grow, although I've never really had too much success in growing it to be a big plant, but nettle isn't necessarily that large either. So that is the mint bed, and kind of happy with how it's turning out. Because last year I never even had any of this space. This was all just leaves and brush, and so I thought, why not put a bed there? Why not put a bed there? That bed, I'm not gonna walk over there. As you can see, it's basically just dirt. It has some potatoes growing, but if anything ever happens over there, I'll let you know. Basically just dirt. And over here, all the little germination plants. Those are fun, and then saplings. So that was basically a incredibly exhaustive look at everything that's growing in this garden this year. I do hope you enjoyed. If there's any plant that you're interested in me growing, let me know, and I will attempt to grow it and let you know, and update you on how it goes, because I'm always looking for new plants to grow. I'm always looking for important plants to grow, like tobacco or datura, or even something like morning glory. I love morning glory. And San Pedro. This is also a very important plant. I don't want to just grow boring plants like tomato or squash or pepper. Pepper is really fun and probably one of my favorites, but yeah, I think I'm just looking for something cool and interesting and fun and unique and exciting to grow. So that's why I grow all these more interesting things that you wouldn't necessarily find or would struggle to find at kind of somewhere like Lowe's or Home Depot. So let me know if you have any suggestions on fun plants, because I'll definitely give it a shot. I love ordering seeds, and or just receiving seeds too. If you want to exchange seeds, I do have quite a few from the plants that I grow here, and well, I do hope you enjoyed, and thank you.